Hello, Samantha. Here's some overdue feedback for you. It'll be on milestone 1 primarily, but I'll end with the journal entry that characterizes your client. And as we move through the class, keep your eye on the client. Every visual decision that you make, choice of photographs, use of typography, will augment the branding of the client. But good job, and for complete submissions. Now, Samantha, I opened this in Safari for the Macintosh, which allows me to split the screen and view your code while I live preview your web page. And there's, you're very far advanced. You're well into week 6. Now, which is okay. When I look at your code here, let me just open up this window. No, it's better than okay. It's wonderful. As long as you understand the other kinds of styling, because 3.3 is about inline styling. And here I see that you've got a CSS, external CSS already. Now, I realize that Chapter 2 of HTML5 Foundation puts you about here, and that was this week's reading. What I admire is that you have your simple sitemap, really, which is that unordered list, UL, and that has made your rollover navigation really nice. You've commented thoroughly throughout the site, and here you've used inline styling. Now, know that inline styling takes precedence over an external style sheet. So even though you have this external style sheet, it will be overridden by your indications of your inline styling. You shouldn't have both, is what I'm saying. Okay, so you've defined H1 in your style sheet. Is that correct? Okay, so you're good. You're good. It's beautiful. I like the way the image in the background tiles. When I zoom, I don't notice that it's a tiling until I zoom way out, which is, and where it meets up here is pretty convincing. So I like the background image. This is, very advanced. It shows to me that you've had some experience with HTML and CSS. Good going. You've also been able to upload things. So, and that was the 2 rubric, what do you call them, classifications, I guess. The first was, have you added style to the heads? And yes, you have, and then some. Now try to get this to be, I think it's called Athelas. That's the corporate typeface. That will be your next challenge. And you've been able to upload beautifully, and the links to your images clearly work. So that's excellent. Really good to see. Now, are you going to retro-engineer wireframes? That's also a step that wouldn't be good to miss. So it's not too late to post something in the week 4 peer discussion of wireframes. If not, then be sure you do something to present for your final project. Here's what you submitted, Samantha, for your milestone, and I think I just opened up the HTML, but correct me if I'm wrong. This seems to be screenshots of your file management, and I see you have a image for folders, or sorry, a directory for a directory for images, and a folder, I guess, presumably for HTML pages. Now, as long as this matches what you have on GeoCities, you'll be okay. Well, let's go back to that. So it looks like you don't have any subdirectories in which to place files. So how are you going to archive, say, week 4, 5? Are you just going to overwrite the same index.html? Just a question. With this level of competence, I'm sure you'll figure it out. But if you need assistance, just let me know. Samantha, I opened up both of these, and so I imagine this is your PC file management. This is your GeoCities file management. They don't quite match up, though. I mean, excluding my desktop and SNHU folder, I would expect to see maybe another directory to hold everything on your desktop, at least. Perhaps name it GRA 310, and then really that should also match whatever you put on the GeoCities server. I'm not sure what you mean by with one page making up my file. Okay, so let me the distraction of a footer. Yes, footers are parts of web pages, and yes, that will. But it's something that appears on the bottom, at the foot of every web page. I'm not sure I would include it. You have both a wireframe, sort of indication of a wireframe here, as well as the sitemap. Okay, so let me begin by saying this. Clarify in your mind the difference between a wireframe, a visual sitemap, a coded sitemap, which is also necessary to have, and lastly, a file management system. Clarify those four things in your mind. Samantha, when I opened up the index.html that was in your submissions folder, I came across with this. It's almost like a receipt. So I don't know whether you're what that's about. It may have just snuck onto your zip file. Samantha, this was an excellent journal entry, very detailed for a journal entry. You have picked appropriate questions to ask both the focus group as well as the client. And I like your visual, what do you call them, adjectives. Should the restaurant be simple and clean or vibrant? Some of it goes back to the wireframe, which I hope we have a chance to complete. And the wireframe will give you visual directions. I know they're skeletal, but they will determine, say, whether you bleed photographs off the edges, whether you have a lot of grouped photographs. Your demographics will determine much of that. If you want to stress ambiance, then maybe photographs of the interior of the restaurant, and fewer of them. If it's a family-oriented restaurant, then maybe the menu is the primary concern, and the variety would be important to project. So maybe that's an occasion to have a very busy web page. But you can see that the way you lay your pages out, and I'm sort of speaking to the converted because your website is already quite competent, but it's lacking that step of the wireframes, unless I'm missing something. Okay, well, back to the characterization of your clientele. The questions that you would ask for the focus group, I think, are astute. There are other types of market research that I think you need to consider. There's simple things like WebMonkey for surveys. There is free resources such as the U.S. Census for demographic information. Google has a whole host of tools, and then there's venerable data sellers such as Nielsen that will give you demographic information too. So just be aware of those. But other than that, your response is detailed, lengthy. I also like that you have design questions in some of your questions you would ask of the client. It seems obvious, but many students think of only sort of process questions to ask the restaurant. Say, for example, if there's takeout, would you involve wait staff or perhaps kitchen staff in the focus group? Would that be a good idea? But other suggestions would include test marketing or by sampling. Simple things like that, or simply getting out on the streets and seeing what the competition is about. Very descriptive. I can see that you're visual by nature in your description of what town restaurant will offer.